time. I know some people don't ever get their citizenship, but we worked so hard for it.
Donnie Two-Scoop Baboon Ass has done to our country with the division, the open racist, hateful comments, and just giving permission for them to be flannel wearing, mouth breathing, baboon, mindless. I'm sorry, I'm a little heated.
Yes. So today, I've decided that today I am sad.
But I pray to God for anyone that voted this election, minority, doesn't even have the same mindset as Trump. I pray to God these repercussions hit y'all not only first, but harder.
How does this not go without saying?
Donald Trump, with unbridled anger, demands the resignation of Keir Starmer, stressing that otherwise the UK will be on the verge of a huge economic downturn. This position causes genuine surprise, but to tell the truth, Starmer himself looked into the intricate problem, showing unacceptable imprudence. The political games that Starmer has embarked on are causing growing discontent among both citizens and experts in the field of economics. Trump certainly knows how to pick up a wave of public discontent and use it to his advantage. In the context of growing concern about the UK's economic stability, such calls are of particular importance. Many analysts insist on the need for a more balanced and constructive policy, warning of the possible consequences of inaction. Perhaps it is this approach of Trump, although provocative, that is able to wake up politicians from hibernation and encourage them to take action.
Looking back, I mean, the sheer stupidity of Keir Starmer allowing 100 Labour supporters to go over to the key swing states in America to campaign for Kamala. I mean, think about that now in the cold light of day, now that Trump has triumphed. How stupid! What a moron to do that. What a moron. And of course, Donald's already talking about it. He's already saying, you know, this guy's really left-wing. I'm worried about him. You know, Donald's a pragmatist, but also he's like an elephant. He never forgets. So our relationship with America, what they call the special relationship, it's going to be in trouble. It's going to be in trouble thanks to the idiocy of our Prime Minister.
Starmer, instead of sticking to the line of politeness and respect for political opponents, chose a more aggressive approach, which can have serious consequences. Sending a group of 100 Labour members to support Trump only heightens tensions and demonstrates that politics has become an arena where every step serves to attack an opponent. This decision clearly does not contribute to improving relations between the two countries and may lead to further deterioration of diplomatic ties. Against the background of Trump's return to power, his actions are already causing sharp reactions. The new economic barriers he has set up in the form of increased customs duties are putting many jobs in Britain at risk. During the fierce economic war that Trump is initiating, people find themselves on the front lines. Their financial well-being and peace of mind are under threat. The society expects that the leadership will advocate for the protection of the interests of citizens and not complicate the situation with their actions. It is obvious that the struggle for power and influence sometimes overshadows common sense and responsibility to people.
Well, I think a US-UK trade deal would be a huge positive, and a lot of the negotiations were already conducted, of course, under the Conservatives previously with Trump when he was president. But I have very little faith in Keir Starmer's, willingness and ability to put in place a trade deal.
Starmer's move in a clash with Trump risks turning into a real disaster for the entire population of the country. If the situation worsens, economic turmoil will make every forecast in the UK completely unpredictable and frightening. Public sentiment will heat up when the usual order of things begins to collapse, and residents will find themselves in a state of constant anxiety. Changes that were once perceived as insignificant can now cause panic and disorientation.
The socialist government in the UK right now is a disaster for Britain. It's disastrous for the special relationship with the United States. US Conservatives have a very negative view of Keir Starmer and his ultra-woke government. And so I do think Starmer's going to have a very, very tough time.
British politicians who arrived in the United States faced an aggressive reaction from opponents, who began spreading rumors that they were trying to manipulate the election results. The conflict is heating up to the limit, and it is unclear exactly how this scandalous interference will affect the election results. Only one question remains open. Will Kamala Harris, for whom British Labour is so actively campaigning, be able to restore the trust of voters against the background of this emerging anxiety? Trump, possessing an irreconcilable character, never forgets his abusers, and so, after Lammy's harsh words, he couldn't miss the chance to take revenge. Every time he is bullied, Trump turns into a respectable strategist, ready to attack at the most unexpected moment. The situation was aggravated by Starmer's uncertainty. He seemed to be afraid to enter into an open conflict with Trump, realizing that he could manipulate economic levers in his favor. In Trump's eyes, Starmer became not just an opponent, but a symbol of weakness, which only fueled his rage. As a result, international relations between the United States and the United Kingdom have been threatened. Trump began openly threatening sanctions and cutting trade ties. His promises of retribution became a grim harbinger of what the future holds for Britain if Lammy and Starmer do not learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, and looking at Twitter and the social media today, you know, a lot of these liberals and lefties have made complete fools of themselves. Like Rory Stewart.
Oh, God.
Don't you ever tell me he's a clever guy again.
Yeah.
Oh, Kamala will win comfortably for these reasons. The black vote will go to, and the women won't vote for Donald. They did, didn't they, Rory?
This time, he imposed an extensive import tariff of 10% on all goods in the UK, which was announced on the 8th of November 2024. The National Institute of Economic and Social Research warns of significant damage, predicting that UK economic growth will collapse from 1.2% to 0.4% in 2025. The manufacturing sector, which forms the backbone of British exports, is already suffering from a deep crisis. Agriculture is subject to even more serious problems, and British farmers are looking at their desperate situation in despair. In the face of growing uncertainty, the business community is under unprecedented pressure. Local companies face increasing prices for imported goods, which leads to higher costs and reduced competitiveness in the international arena. Many entrepreneurs are forced to reduce their investments, which further exacerbates the economic downturn. In addition, a decrease in imports leads to a shortage of goods in the domestic market, which further worsens the situation for consumers. People are beginning to feel the effects of the introduction of the new tariff in their wallets, and the level of dissatisfaction with the social situation is growing.
Let's think that, okay, tariffs are inflationary. It's a one-off price adjustment. But again, it would be how are the tariffs implemented and what would the U.S. be getting in return? I think there's this misperception that day one of Trump, we're going to have tariffs across the board, X%, and this is my guess, and in China it's going to be at least 60%, maybe higher. To me, it's going to be more nuanced. It's going to be very transactional. In other words, tariffs are going to be used in large part as a tool.
The agricultural sector is on the verge of complete collapse. Products that once brought a stable income now turn out to be unsuitable for sale. On the 10th of November 2024, the British National Farmers Union alarmingly announced the beginning of a genuine apocalypse, warning that rural regions completely dependent on exports could become victims of this crisis. Trump is certainly aware of the consequences of his actions. This is a cunning political move aimed at strengthening his influence. He is sending a clear and loud message to Keir Starmer's government, and this moment is chosen with amazing precision. Trump is targeting the most vulnerable place, economically weakening Britain with merciless precision. His actions are causing the country to suffer at every turn, exacerbating the crisis. Now, rural communities are afraid of the future, while the political climate is becoming more unstable and hopes for salvation are gradually fading.
has certain environmental regulations and certain rules against child labor. Some of our trading partners don't have those same rules, and we're at a disadvantage. So to the extent tariffs can level the playing field and make trade fair, I think that makes sense. Also, it would depend, too, what happens with energy policy. If we have a significant amount of drilling and energy production, that will offset the tariffs, even if the tariffs, for argument's sake, were implemented across the board. The energy share of the economy is bigger than the import share of the economy. So it really depends how it's going to be put into place.
The situation is aggravated by the fact that many citizens can no longer cover their expenses, and a sharp increase in rates makes their financial situation almost hopeless. More and more mortgage owners are starting to think about bankruptcy and selling their homes. In addition, the entire consumer credit sector is under pressure. People are starting to reduce their spending on essential goods, which, in turn, affects small and medium-sized businesses. The country's economy is beginning to suffer from falling consumer demand, and this creates a negative effect that overrides the government's efforts to stimulate economic growth.
That sounds like a good idea. Meanwhile, old cackling Cameron's going, yeah, I could pay for trans surgery for prisoners. You know, I mean, come on.
On the 10th of November, 2024, Starmer sent a letter to David Lammy asking him to develop plans to strengthen representation in the United States. This can be regarded as a subtle hint of a request for help. Their efforts are aimed at smoothing out the consequences of an unsatisfactory situation and hoping that diplomatic maneuvers can save Britain's remaining relations with America. The situation is becoming increasingly tense, and what previously seemed to be a solid foundation for his leadership is now falling apart. Starmer finds himself at the center of a barrage of questions and discontent that calls into question his ability to lead the country in these difficult times. Tell me your opinion in the comments. See you soon.